William, your videographer from Two Hats Publishing. Welcome to the College of Complexes, being held at Barbeck's Restaurant at 8949 Garland Road, Dallas, Texas. Gently embracing the east side of White Rock Lake. When I entered, I was greeted like coming home to Grandma's house, warm and friendly. When visiting the Barbeck's Restaurant, tell them you want your reservations for the next College of Complex class.
Well, welcome to the College of Complexes. This is our 255th meeting since we started in February of 2009. This actually started in Chicago in 1951 for the purpose of solving all the world's problems. They're still working at it. We put a different speaker on every week, a different subject. We require a speaker to take a position on an issue or express a point of view. They have to be for or against something, don't care what it is. We give them an hour to make a presentation. If they go over an hour, we cut them off. If anybody interrupts the speaker, remind the interrupter that we listen only one fool at a time. That's one of our rules. And then we have questions and answers, not speeches. And you get to question the speaker on different things from the audience. And then we have remarks, rebuttals. Everybody in the audience that wants to gets 5 minutes at this podium to respond to what the speaker said for or against. And our speaker gets to comment on a comment and close the meeting, gets the last word. That's how it works. But before we put on our speaker, we have time for announcements. Now is the time. Anybody has any announcements? Now is the time to make them. Anybody have any announcements they want to make? Come on up here. Should be back. Make our announcement. Go ahead.
Hello. I'd like to announce that next Wednesday, Joe Stokes back there and I are going to City Hall to work on the council some more. This is a year-long process, trying to get them to not renew the contract to buy the hydrofluorosilicic acid to put the fluoride in the water. So we're against the fluoride. I've been studying it all year, and come and root for me. Anyway, know that it's happening. It might go to a referendum. I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I'm going to talk about it one day. So anyway, it's happening right now. They have to vote on it. A 3-year contract coming up real soon.
Okay, anybody got an announcement to make? Come on up here. Now's the time.
I heard that. Yeah, and so Rita Beving, who is part of Sierra Club, is touring a bus on January the 15th, leaving at Walmart 10:30. It's free lunch, free dinner, and to go and confront the EAP on smog issues. So I'm going to pass this around if anybody wants to take the information. Her email is right over here. DPA. Sorry.
Environmental Protection Agency.
Any other announcements? Now's the time. No more announcements? Okay. Well, next week is Join the Math Revolution. No pencil, no paper, no calculator. That's our speaker next week. You have the itinerary there. I don't want to read all this. The following week, January 24th, the real benefits of reading before kindergarten. That's another Scott McFarden, family literary architect, will be here. And January 31st, Lone Wolf Gonzalez and the assassination of Pancho Villa. Jim Gatewood, Dallas history professor, best-selling author, he'll be here. On February 7th, we're expanding judicial foreclosures in Texas with Judge Martin Hoffman, 68th District Court, he'll be here. And on February 21st, Why the U.S. Needs a Progressive Party with John Beasley, English-born author. He's here somewhere tonight. He's sitting right there. He's our speaker on February 21st, so read it all here on your itinerary. That's where it's at. Now tonight we have, the topic is, can we change the world with the power of our minds? Bringing fresh optimism to this new year, author Pat O'Connell will talk about the philosophy and physics of powerful methods that enable all of us to shape the world to a better place. She'll outline manifestation tools such as prayer and the law of attraction. We'll discuss ways of objectively tracking our impact or global consciousness. Help launch an experiment to make a difference. Come prepared to tell us what the perfect world looks like to you. So without further ado, please give a very, very warm welcome to Pat O'Connell.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to race through the presentation because I'd like to break with the tradition a little bit. When I finish the presentation, we're going to hand you all pieces of paper so we can get your feedback and your ideas in writing for a certain other part of this. And so we'll kind of combine the Q&A with the remarks and rebuttals, and we'll just all kind of share. So I can't really see the screen. I'll have to look at my computer. So the topic is, can we change the world with the power of our minds? And starting out, I wanted to just kind of paint the picture that the world is in a tough place. We've got a lot of things going on. There's a quote there by Hitler basically talking about how you can take away people's freedoms by taking them away a little at a time, and they won't notice until it's too late. We've got a serious situation with the economy and the banks that are controlling us, and there's a quote there by Woodrow Wilson, who was devastated when he realized the consequences of allowing the Federal Reserve to be formed, and the fact that the bankers, the world bankers and the Federal Reserve control our economy, and they're running us into the ground. And then John Kennedy, and I cannot read that. That's not going to work. Yeah, but I need to be able to see it. There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I need to expose this plot. I'm going to have to pull one of these. Yeah, and then we know that he died, was murdered. So we're in a situation where big money, the mess is big money controls the government. The economy stinks. It's bordering on collapse. Jobs are scarce. Poverty is pervasive. Our soldiers are fighting and dying in wars for profit worldwide. Our rights and freedoms are being eroded at an alarming rate. We're being dumbed down and physically ruined. Law enforcement is out of control. Real innovation is suppressed. And you can add to that list. I'm sure you all have your own things that worry you. What can we do about it? So I started looking at this subject and thinking, okay, there are two solutions I can see. One, you can try to fix it, and there are a lot of people in this room who have done that and are still trying to do that. They're trying to make a difference. Or you can run away. But then I started looking at the issue of fixing what's broken. And you've got several ways to do this, but activism, several of us in this room are involved in activism. We can speak out, we can organize, we can awaken, we can push business leaders to do the right thing and to contribute to some of our efforts. Politics, several people in this room are also involved in politics, getting into the process and trying to change it from the inside. Media, I think there are several people in our group as well that are involved in the media and trying to communicate things that we believe people need to know and to make a difference in this world. Faith-based activities, churches can use the power of their congregations to mobilize people around certain efforts to rarely to get involved in politics, but more often to get involved in helping people when government doesn't help or that they're not getting the help they need. And then business opportunities, if you can get business leaders, or if you are a business leader, you can put some money and some muscle into making changes that you see need to be made. And then there are the unthinkable options, where some people just are so fed up that they're considering taking the same underhanded and dirty actions that the people in power are using against us. Obviously, none of those are acceptable. The problem with trying to fix it that stops a lot of people is that they believe that there are too many things wrong. The powers that be are too rich and too powerful to fight. Many of us are apathetic and weak, and they just say, okay, I can't make a difference, so I'm not going to bother. The powers that be want to keep us divided. They want to keep us afraid of each other and hating each other and fearing each other. That way we will not join together, because there are way more of us than there are of them. And if we were all to unite around a single purpose, they'd be out. And that's the last thing they want to happen, is for us to unite. So some think we're too far gone. It can't be fixed. It's so bad, there's no coming back from this. And some rely so heavily on what's wrong that their whole lives are invested in the wrongness, in the fight against the wrongness, so that they can't see the right. They can't want things to be fixed, because then what do they do for their social life, for their whole life, if they've been doing nothing but fighting against what's wrong? And obviously some don't want to sink to the levels that they have. So in terms of running away, I thought, okay, well, if you can't fix it, and I kind of oscillate back and forth between gotta fix it, gotta figure out something to do, what can we do to fix it, and then feeling that sense of overwhelming and it's just too big, can't do it, let's just run away. Well, running away has its own problems. There's several ways of running away: denial, survivalist, prepping, immigration, secession, and termination. And the problem with running away, one of the problems, is that denial isn't a real escape. It just postpones the inevitable. And Ayn Rand said you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And one of my favorite quotes from Harriet Tubman is, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. And so that's kind of where we are in terms of denial. A lot of people are in denial that we are even slaves, that we are victims of, obviously probably not anybody in this room, but that's the situation. With survivalists, again, people who have spent so much time and money investing in these massive survivalist prepping kind of situations, they're invested emotionally in the worst case scenario happening. So if the worst case scenario doesn't happen, now they have to deal with the people that they've alienated, the friends and the family that they've alienated. They have to look at all the money they've spent that may never be needed, all the supplies, the ammunition, all that kind of thing. So they're emotionally invested in the worst case scenario happening. So they can't even think about, and I'm not saying everybody, but it's hard to think about making things right when you've invested so much of your time and your money and your resources in fighting the wrong thing. Emigrating, you can run away, but you can't hide. Every place has their problems. Secession, there's been talk about Texas seceding, but there's also talk about creating little enclaves, little communities where you are self-sufficient, hydroponic farming, and you have your own resources, you have your own bank, your own currency, and you don't need no stinking government, and you can just kind of bow out of the system. Well, the problem with that is that communities, let's say like Highland Park, who can afford afford the best in the people who are running their system, they can hire companies like Blackwater and Halliburton, and some cities are hiring companies like that to actually run their cities. So let's say Highland Park hired Blackwater to run their city, and now my little community has our little aquaponics, and we're farming and we're growing food, and we've got all kinds of things, that energy and whatever else we need. Well, if Highland Park wants our stuff, they're going to come get it, because they outgunned us and outmanned us, so they can come get it. And obviously termination, some people who say it's just too horrible to consider and I'm just going to check out. Well, that just pushes the problem onto somebody else, typically our children and our children's children. So that's not an option. So I started looking at, fixing what's broken, well, that's not really always a good option, and running away, that may not even work. So what if we can just manifest the perfect world? All right, so what does that mean? we acknowledge our power as energetic beings in an energy universe, and we'll get into more of that. And for now, we're going to set aside how you get there, because there are a lot of different ways you can get to the same result. But the point is that what does it look like when it's already achieved? So that's going to be the key to this. So a couple of the philosophies that we're going to talk about is law of attraction and prayer, which I'm sure that most people in this room are familiar with at least one, if not both, and then making lemonade. The law of attraction was popularized in a book called The Secret, and they also did a video of the same name. The idea is that when we focus on something, we put our energy into getting more of that back from the universe. It's basically we're putting an order into the universe. The universe doesn't care, doesn't judge. It just says, what are the people investing most of their energy in? Okay, that must be what they want, and so I'm going to give it more of that. So if we're investing a lot of our energy in what's wrong and the negative things, then we're going to get more of the same. That's what the law of attraction says. Intentioning in the process that is taught by under the law of attraction. Your intentions, you put your intentions, your mental and emotional and spiritual intentions out there into the universe, and you visualize what it is you want intentionally. It isn't just wishful thinking. You're not just sitting there and being lazy and saying, gosh, I wish this were true, and give me another beer, and let's put on the Cowboys. You have to do something. You have to take energy. You need to put positive energy toward making that desired reality come true. You can't just sit there and hope that it does. You have to put energy into making it happen. And it's kind of like I compare it to training a dolphin. You have to give thanks. You have to recognize the good things, the incremental parts of what you want. You have to recognize those things that are happening and give thanks for them, or celebrate those things. And it's kind of like training a dolphin. It swims around, and you just wait for it to do some little part of that trick that you want it to do, and then you give it a fish. And then it goes, oh, wow, okay, that must have been good. I'll go do it again. And then you give it a fish for doing something else. And eventually it recognizes these fish-worthy actions, and it puts all these fish-worthy actions together into a great trick that people pay a lot of money to come and see. So by recognizing the good things that happen and consciously acknowledging those, giving thanks for those things, we're essentially training the universe that not only are we putting our intentions out there as to what we want, but we're seeing little pieces of that. Even if they're baby steps, we're seeing those little pieces of it, and we're going, yay, thank you very much, universe. And so the universe goes, oh, okay, that's the right thing. I'm going to do that some more. So that's the fish-worthy thing. In the movie The Matrix, there's a very wise boy who asks Neo, Keanu Reeves, to bend the spoon, and he says the secret is that don't try to bend the spoon. It's impossible. You just have to realize the truth. And Neo says, well, what is the truth? And the boy says, there is no spoon. Now you guys can all ponder this, but the idea is that he says, you'll see that it's not the spoon that bends, it's yourself. So we're all kind of living in the matrix. We are in an energetic universe. Everything in the universe is energy, and we'll talk more about that, but E equals MC squared. Everything is energy in the universe. And so we need to think in terms of how we can change the world we're manifesting by bending ourselves in a way. So my experience with the law of attraction, for years I recognized that the universe gave me work when I need work and time when I needed time, but I didn't really put it together. And of course you guys, a lot of you know that I'm a very analytical, logical person, and so I had a hard time with this spiritual, woo-woo kind of stuff. And but but I read The Secret, I watched the movie, and I understood the physics that they were talking about, the principles that are behind this process. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll start trying it. And it starts by recognizing the gifts you want, recognizing the parts of the right thing that you're already getting. So I was doing that, and nothing happened, but I was doing it. I was paying more attention to what's good in the world, what's good in my life. And the first time it happened, I was had gone out to the woods, and I was on my way back, and I was dreading going back to work. I had a project that was very emotionally charged. I'm a writer, so I was working on a project that was very subjective, and everybody in the world has their own opinion, and it's one of those situations where you can never win. I can't win. Somebody is not going to be happy with me in this project when I finish it. And so as I was driving home, I was feeling more and more uncomfortable, and I said, I don't want to do painful work anymore. And so I thought, okay, when I get home, I'm going to contact my client boss, and I'm going to ask her, does the tech writer ever have overflow that projects she can't handle? And I could pick that up. It would be very non-controversial. It just is what it is. I teach people how to use software or hardware. It would be so nice to work on something like that. An hour later, I got home. There was an email from my client boss that said, there's a company that's associated with our company. They need some software documentation. Would you be interested? I had not asked her for this, but my experience is that you can't just visualize what you want. When I said, I don't want to do painful work anymore, I want to do work that feels good, I put that intention out in the universe, but I also mentally committed to taking action. When I got home, I was going to send her an email. And what the universe seems to do is that when you put energy into making a commitment to do that thing, to make a difference in that thing, the universe gives you a little help. And I look at it like God helps those who help themselves, and I'm going to talk about that. But it's the kind of idea that you don't just, again, you don't get stuff just by asking for it. You've got to commit. You've got to take action, even if it's the wrong thing. So, okay, and we've got the power of prayer, and you guys all know how that works. It's basically the same process. You thank God for things, you ask God for things, or whoever your deity is. Now, the project that I'm going to be talking about that I'm involved in and that I've created isn't about making lemonade, but the objective is that if we put our intentions out there for the positive things we want to manifest in the world, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is we start looking for the good in the world. We start looking for the little bits of things that are right, and we start acknowledging the little bits of things that are right. So we're making the best of the situation at worst. So we can't really waste our time doing that. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a little bit about the science behind this whole idea of changing the world with the power of your mind. And quantum physics, the Global Consciousness Project, $1 million experiment, and the power of prayer. And again, I'm flying through this. In quantum physics, there are several principles that actually apply to this whole idea that we can change the world with the power of our minds. As I said, we're all, everything is energy. Matter is just energy transformed into a solid form. But David Bohm, the physicist, he postulated that form is manifested out of information. So thought is a kind of information. So the energy field that's out there, when we think about things, we can make that energy field form into whatever reality we want. Then there's another thing that is probability waves, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the many worlds theory. The theory is that there are an infinite number of realities that exist right now. So in other realities, we're in this room and it's summer. In this reality, we're wearing different clothes, or somebody else is speaking, but there are countless other universes that exist and realities that exist right now, and by our observation or by our manifesting, by our intentions, we manifest the reality that we want. So it's kind of like a roulette wheel where, you know, the ball could fall anywhere, but if we're focused on red 7, it could fall anywhere, but our focus on red 7 makes that ball fall on red 7. So the probability waves says that there are all these possible realities happening at the same time, and by intentioning or observing, we cause all of the other possible realities to disappear, and we manifest the one that we've chosen. So physics says there is a reason we can do this. Now the other one is quantum entanglement, and what that says is that when matter blows up, there are these quantum particles that are paired. They're forever paired. And so they can be separated across the universe. And whatever affects one instantaneously affects the other. So if you kick me and I've got one pair of that entangled particle in me, and then there's some creature on the opposite end of the universe that's got the other partner to that particle, when you kick me, they're going to say, ow. So and there is no lapse in time. There is no, it is instantaneous. So essentially, because we are all made of this soup of particles, subatomic particles that are part of the universe, it's possible that we are all connected. So I can think something and you can hear it. Or so there are a couple of mechanisms by which we can literally change the world just using our minds. The Global Consciousness Project is a project from Princeton University. I think they've been in business for about 15 years. And they have about 70 computers worldwide set up. They're electrically shielded and all this kind of stuff, so they're insulated from other electromagnetic influence. But what they're doing is they're running random number generators. And what that involves is it's basically like flipping a coin. And the computers are flipping these virtual coins, which are ones and zeros in the computer. And the odds are, if you flip a coin enough, you're going to get 50% are heads and 50% are tails. So the computers are looking for, you know, okay, here's the truly random occurrence of these coin flips. And it looks for anomalous periods of non-randomness. So when the coin toss is no longer 50-50, averaging out at 50-50, something else is going on, and they don't really know what it is, but they're finding statistically significant variations from randomness during certain really traumatic or emotionally engaging, it could be something positive in a lot of cases, most cases it's negative, events where it really veers off of randomness. The non-randomness, it starts to, like, there would be more heads, a lot more heads than tails, and they know that something's going on. So here's where the computers are. They're all over the world. They recorded the Global Consciousness Project. Oh, and they call the computers the eggs, electrogaiagraphs. And from the term Gaia, which refers to the earth as a living being. So it's EGGS, eggs. So that map was showing the eggs. So the Global Consciousness Project recorded a huge spike around 9/11. Now, the strange thing was that it started to go up. The non-randomness started to increase before the first plane hit. So it suggests that either it was precognition and the global consciousness, the people in the world were aware somehow psychically that something really bad was going to happen ahead of time, or there were a whole lot of people involved in the 9/11 situation who were planning and putting things into place. I tend to think that it was precognition, but that's just, you know, my thing. So you can look at this and see, this makes it really hard for me to point at the screen. Here, I'm gonna have to come out here. Got the remote. Okay. So the attacks, I'm sorry, I'm right in front of you. So the attacks began at 8:46. Well, at 5:15, between 5:15 and 6:10, you can see how the line started to spike up. This blue back here, this is the computer's pseudo data. So this is what the computer thinks that it should be getting, just if it's still running random. This shows that it's leaving randomness. And it starts at 5:15. The first attack was at 8:46 in the morning. So now we have at 8:41, 5 minutes before the first tower was hit, Deutsche Bank's computers at the World Trade Center were taken over, and 100 million in credit card transactions ran through like wildfire, and people who worked there didn't know what was going on. It was taken over by some other software, some other controller. That's a whole other story. But the point is that the spike is before the first towers hit. Now we've got the first tower hit at 8:46, and now the first tower falls at 9:59, and then the second tower falls at 10:30. So what you have here is the spike starts. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and during this period of what I consider what would be the maximum trauma, the maximum initial trauma up to our national global psyche, realizing that this event has occurred, is where the spike is at its peak. So what I'm thinking is that we can use the Global Consciousness Project as a way to possibly track the results of our combined effort to focus on specific visualizations of things that we want in the perfect world, and see if we get any blips on the project. Now there's another project called the $1 Million Experiment. I don't know that there's any science behind this, but I just thought it was fun. And basically, it's several thousand people who say this mantra in its own time and for the highest good of all. I intend 1 million to come into my life and into the lives of everyone who holds this intention. And so far, they've gotten over $5 million that have come to the people in this group just by thinking about it. And the principle is that it can't be like your paycheck. It can't be something you expect or that you're planning on getting. It has to be something that's a surprise that you wouldn't normally have gotten. So that's just a fun thing. And the power of prayer, I'm going to skip through that again back here. This is a really good site, godandscience.org. Thank you. If you want to find some studies that have really studied and quantified the power of prayer, where they, in this particular case, it was people in a coronary care unit, and they had controls, and then they had the target people that were being prayed over, and the people who were prayed over had significant, in a statistically significant way, improvement. Okay, so my project is called the Snowflake Initiative, and the snowflake means something to me. It kind of is the philosophy that I've lived by since going through some traumas in my own life. And the first part is life, like a snowflake, life is fragile, and you have to explore and celebrate every facet while you can, because it could be gone any minute. But the other part is, like snowflakes, people are fragile, but joined together, like snowflakes in a glacier, we can literally change the landscape. So if you think about how fragile that snowflake is in your hand, way more fragile than we as people are, and how quickly it can melt, how quickly it can be gone, but then that same snowflake can merge with a whole bunch of other snowflakes and make this thing that carved out the Great Lakes. So we need to visualize we have this kind of power. If a snowflake can do that, we have this kind of power. I've been involved in things, none of them worked, but you know, I've done my thing, no labels, Occupy, I've tried to fire Congress, all these kinds of things, but you know, everybody fights, couldn't get any unity. So, my Snowflake initiative involves collecting visions of the perfect world from a cross-section of Americans, identify common themes. I think that there is more unity among us than the politicians and the media want us to believe. Again, it goes back to this idea that they want to keep us divided, but the divide and conquer concept. As long as we are divided, we can't mobilize our power. So the purpose of this is to find areas of agreement, and then we'll focus on them. One of the things I want to do is to interview people, and this is the beginning, asking them, what does your perfect world look like? And make a documentary that shows that we do have some unity, we do have some common visions of the future and or the reality that we would like to manifest. And then we'll collect and post reports of improvements, those things we want to celebrate, thank you universe, and we'll encourage other people to invite others to join in it, and hopefully over time we'll have more and more people focusing on single subjects for a period of time, and at some point we may see some blips on the eggs on the Global Consciousness Project. Where do we start? Tonight we're going to identify elements of your perfect world vision. We want you to be specific and brief, and we're going to give you some pieces of paper in a bit and markers, and so that's why I wanted you guys all to be thinking about this ahead of time, because I don't think we spend any time thinking about, gosh, if I could just make the world perfect, what would it look like? So you don't have to worry about how you get there. Now we've got two lists that you saw on those checklists, and they're also posted on the wall. One is, what does the perfect world look like if you could just poof, if you had a genie who could make it perfect and you woke up tomorrow morning and everything was fixed. And then we've got another list over there that gets into those how we get there. We're looking for areas of unity. The how we get there we'll probably disagree a lot on, but hopefully what it looks like when it's done right, we'll find a lot of agreement on. Hopefully we'll find some agreement on how to get there too, but that's what we're looking for. So my starter list is here, and it was on that checklist, so you guys have all read this. Okay, so we're in a minute, we're going to give you some paper, and then at 8:30, and I would also like to kind of change the format a little bit tonight and make the Q&A session and the remarks and rebuttals, this whole portion about getting you guys to write down additions to these lists. What did we leave off? What have we forgotten in terms of what you think are elements of the perfect world? So that's what we're going to do. So the Snowflake Initiative begins now, and for the next period of time until we get that list of things that we agree on, what I would like to do is just a generic intentioning, which is to transform our negative focus into positive focus. And so the mantra would be, from now until the project officially kicks off with its first intentioning, would be for us to say, whenever I think or hear about something negative, I immediately visualize the desired alternative. So what does that mean? It means if you're upset about police brutality and you see police killing people and dogs and roughing people up, and it's just, they're going crazy. Now you visualize what the police should be. We trust them. They make us safe, and they follow the Constitution. If you see a homeless family and your heart breaks, what do you visualize? You visualize people being able to get jobs, and good jobs, and have a nice little family, a nice little home in a good neighborhood. Doesn't have to be a big house, but it's the American dream. Everybody can have it if they work hard. Anybody who wants a job can get a job. When you think about the polarization, the anger and hate and fear that they're promoting among us, that the politicians and the media want us to feel, visualize fluffy bunnies and moles and kittens and puppies. And you visualize people coming together around common causes, getting out there and showing support for changing things, and people forming teams and really working together, and just generally people coming together no matter what their differences are, finding not focusing on their differences, but focusing on what their similarities are, what they agree on. When you think about the mess the economy is in and the fact that our money isn't worth the paper that it's written on, and the blood money that's behind it. And this is for you, Stuart. you visualize the crooks who made that possible behind jail. Okay, that's behind bars. That's that's not exactly what I had in mind, but visualize that we have currency that's worth something, that's backed by precious metals, that people can have abundant lives, that families can put away a little nest egg. And I came across this quote. Wayne Dyer said, "Abundance is not something we acquire, it's something we tune into," which really speaks to that whole idea of the multiple universes, the multiple realities that exist right now, and it's just like they're all on the radio dial. And you can tune to the low end, and you can pick up the negative program, you can pick up the negative reality, or you can choose to dial to the high end and tune in to the positive reality, to the desired reality. So I liked that one. Now I know that some people have difficulty letting go of the negative, letting go of the things that are wrong. They feel as if, and to focus on the positive, they feel as if they're disregarding, or they're letting down the victims of the darkness. And they feel as if they're neglecting the fight, or they feel as if if they don't keep their focus on the negative all the time, the bad things that are happening, that it'll slip through the cracks and nobody will do anything about it. But the fact is, if you convert your outrage, you be aware of all that stuff, but you think of those things and you convert that energy of your outrage into manifesting and believing in the positive alternative. Now you're honoring the victims by visualizing a world in which that kind of victimization is no longer possible. It can't hide. The bad things, the bad people cannot hide. They can't hide their actions because everything is so transparent, and we are all so aware of what's going on that it just can't happen anymore. You rob the darkness of its power by bringing light and awareness and unity in the world, and you're projecting in the universe a very clear order for what you want. You're telling the universe, I don't want this darkness, I don't want this ugliness, I don't want this bad thing happening, but I've got to tell you what the alternative is. So you're projecting that out into the universe. And none of you who are heartbroken by all this stuff, this bad stuff, and angered by it, you're not going to forget. You're not going to forget that. There's no danger that you're going to forget. So here's where we are right now. And just everybody kind of feel that outrage that you feel about the things you perceive are wrong in the world right now. Just give it 10 seconds and think. You don't have to think about specifics. Just think about the things that make you angry. Think how you feel about those things. Now, here's what we're doing with our visualization. We're bringing light into the world. We're pushing out the darkness, and every positive thought, every positive intention, every time we recognize the good thing that's happened, the incremental achievement that has happened, we're pushing the darkness out a little bit more and a little bit more until there's no place for the darkness anymore. So that's what we're hoping to do. Obviously with our actions, with our activist actions, our political actions, our whatever actions we're taking, those are important, but visualizing the positive. Don't give the darkness, don't feed the darkness by concentrating and dwelling on it. Focus on the negative, focus on the positive, allow the negative things that happen to spring you into that thought of the positive, to add that light into the universe. So, we're going to repeat the Cycle 1 mantra and visualize it. We're going to watch for and celebrate the things that come into our lives that are good, that are parts of the right thing, that are fish-worthy, that are parts of the right thing that we want to see happen. And stay in touch with me through my website at unitytrain.com, the Snowflake Initiative, and share this with other people. Okay, so now, between now and 8:30, what I would like to do is for you guys, you've seen the list of the things and you did the checklist. What I would like for you to do is tell us what we've missed, what things are part of your vision of the perfect world that aren't on this list. And we're going to take those pieces of paper, write real big, and we're going to stick them on the wall. So we're going to be surrounded with all this positive stuff, all this positive visualization. So I think that's where I'm going to stop for now, Tom, and then at 8:30 we'll kind of...
Are you on Q&A now?
Well, we're going to mix it all together.
All right.
This is different.
Okay, it's a Q&A. One question doesn't...
We can do questions while you're talking, but we're going to have you guys write your visions of what elements you see of the perfect world, and then we're going to bring them up and put them on the wall, and then we're going to try to find out how many of us agree with those things. So.
Okay, you can flip this sheet over and write it on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who's got the first question?
So what time is it? It's 7:30, so we've got an hour.
Yeah,
Stay here.
right.
Yes.
Wait.
For now. Till 8:30.
Okay, questions. Who wants the first question? Well, while we're doing this, there's no questions. Somebody has questions of you.
What?
If they have any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has questions,
Now's the time for questions. Any questions?
Tom Beck, okay.
When people have these meetings with this group, is it a certain time of day or a regular basis at noon or something?
It's not a physical group. It's just people gathering together through their intentions. So you'll go to the website to find out the information, but what you will do is every day when we have a mantra like this one is whenever I think of something negative, I immediately turn my thoughts to the positive, to the desired alternative. So what you do is for the next period of time, and the regular cycles will be 28 days. It takes 21 days to make or break a habit, and then an extra week to anchor that habit. So we're going to do lunar cycles, the 28 days. And so for that 28-day cycle, we'll be focusing on the same mantra. Everybody all day long, whenever you think of it, and also when you're tempted, when you catch yourself complaining about what's wrong, or our efforts aren't making any progress, or whatever it is that's negative, you challenge yourself to pull yourself out of that all day long, and then you say that mantra. Whenever I think of something negative or hear something negative, I immediately think of the positive, the desired alternative. And so that's what we're doing every day for that 28 days. This first one is going to be probably longer than 28 days because I want to gather other people's ideas of elements of the perfect world, and then we'll pick one for each cycle. And then everybody in the group, and it can be worldwide, whoever comes to the website or shares it with their friends can do it. All you have to do is think. So, and then we want to hear you report back if you start seeing those incremental little successes, but you want to notice what kind of the baseline was. Okay, my group of friends is really negative and they're all down. Or I'm with like Hank is working on the fluoride thing. Okay, we're getting all this resistance with fluoride. So you notice what the baseline conditions are. And then as we start to visualize, and if that happens to be, one of mine is our food is, that line, let's see. Where is it? Our air and water are clean and healthful. So, you start visualizing that one, and maybe he might start saying, oh, wait a minute, we're seeing city council members flip. We're seeing a lot more people. We're seeing, hey, there's a movie about that. So you start recognizing the little incremental improvements. So that's kind of the way it works. Did that answer your question?
Oh, but my only question was your website again, and this presentation, is there a way we can get it?
Yeah, I can PDF it and I can post it on the website.
Or-
Yeah.
Okay, that was it.
The website is unitytrain.com. It's like Peace Train without the copyright.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
I let me do mine first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't get this Red 7 gambling thing.
The idea is that all possibilities are there. And so they're all, it's just as likely that it could fall on black 9 as on anything else. But if you're all if you're focused on red 7, the odds are going to increase that red 7 is going to come up. So that's a very gross simplification of this. The idea is, and Heisenberg uncertainty principle speaks to the idea that when you observe a result, the very observation of that experiment changes the outcome of the experiment. So people observing something, the visualization or the intentioning or the mere observation of an event, how we visualize that determines which of these probabilities comes into being. That's what the physics say. I know, it's weird math.
It doesn't work, right?
Sure it does.
It does?
It's...
Well, yeah, certainly quantum theory works at the subatomic level.
Right.
Definitely. Nobody understands why, but it certainly does. Now, the other thing is, does it work at the atomic and molecular level? That's a whole different. That's the observable universe. Now, there are certainly very strange things, and there certainly is action at a distance. My only feeling about your theory is you're hoping that everybody will think the same thoughts for the same objectives. The problem is, in this country, what you have is 50-50 are diametrically opposed. So if we're unlucky, all their thoughts will cancel out. Things happen, I think, on a social level when there is a mass understanding of the problem, and then there is a mass understanding of the solutions. Now, Robert Skidelsky, I've mentioned this before. He is the economist who wrote the biography of Lord Keynes, and he says that there's going to have to be 2 more tremendous financial crashes in America before people will wake up. That's his view, and perhaps he's right, because we had a crash in '29, we had a crash in 2008, very serious crash. Mm-hmm. But the public have not really woken up. I mean, they're upset and angry, but the banksters have gone right back doing the same thing. And there was the 99%, against the 1% deal. That seems to have gone away. So one would like. Well, I was asked to speak by Kang here, so anyway. So that's my. How do you get people to think along the same lines and actually conjoin to? Because that is really what moves society, and so that's the problem we're up against, I think.
Okay, there are two points in there. One, that the actions that I talked about work at the quantum level, and I agree, that's true. But it all affects everything else. So it's all entwined. You know, physics are very spooky, and we can't really say that what happens at the atomic level, at the quantum level, doesn't happen at the macro level. So what harm can it do by trying this? And the other thing is, when you talk about getting that unity, and that's absolutely a concern. Are we going to get people on both sides of the fence neutralizing the whole process? Which is why I've separated the how we get there from the what does it look like when it's all done. And I think we can find a lot more agreement around what the perfect world looks like. We might have a small group of the population that, you know, the ultra rich and the ultra powerful who don't want people to have a good home and to have good jobs. They don't care. But I think the majority of the people are going to be able to say, the first thing on my list is that we can leave our doors unlocked at night. That to me speaks to a whole lot of other things, which we feel so safe, which means to me that we trust our police force to protect us, that we don't have that polarization, that anger, that fear, that hate, that they're fomenting among us, so that we're not afraid of each other, we're not hating each other, that it speaks a lot. So I think that trying to go that route, looking at what does it look like if it's already done, we have a strong middle class, if anybody who wants a job can get a job. I think we can get a huge groundswell of attention around and agreement around those kinds of general topics, that we can get maybe a large enough group that it can make a difference. And again, making lemonade. So what if it doesn't work? We're looking at the positive things. We're trying to recognize the good stuff that is in our lives. Susie.
So, I belong to a practice where we do this sort of affirmative work, okay? When you're in the middle of that, you know it, you feel it, you affirm it, you believe it, and you manifest it. It's not that much of a step beyond setting goals at the beginning of the year, which every company, if they're not doing, is failing, right? Mm-hmm. You set your goals, you measure yourself against how you're performing to those goals. So it's just a slight step beyond that of maybe there's a bit more of an emotional investment in it.
Yes.
It's a mind-body experience.
Yes.
Okay? Now, one problem and concern that I have with The Secret is that there's really no qualifier about, are we doing it for the highest and best reasons? Or am I just affirming that I and the other people who think along the same lines like me are going to get $1 million? Okay? You have to, in my estimation, consider the outcome of, is that coming from a good source? Is that something that I'm going to then use to improve the situation, or is it just a hoarding mentality? And so how do you answer that concern of, qualifying these affirmative statements with for the highest and best outcome or for the highest and best good of all?
Well, and that was that fun little project that I came across that was asking for $1 million. That's really not the kind of thing that I'm talking about, but it can't hurt. What we're doing is projecting out there that we will do a lot of good with that money. Not everybody will. That's a whole separate thing. But looking at this list of things that I hope we will come up with that describes the perfect world, I believe those intrinsically will be the nobler kinds of results. What does it look like? Your neighborhoods are safe. The kids can play on the streets. They can come and go from your house. Critical thinking is taught and rewarded. Innovation is not being crushed anymore. Our scientific advances and we've got free energy because the greedy people aren't out there trying to suppress technology, and the government does what's right for all people. That's kind of hard to screw up. And again, it can be screwed up. Anything that exists can be screwed up, but the idea is to go for these more altruistic features of what the good world, what the right world would look like. Yes?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you talk about critical thinking, and I know we have a group here that's committed to thinking things through. And that would involve going to appropriating and using the tools of critical thinking. And one of the questions that we might want to ask in all of this is this: what ethical system or theistic prescribed law is informing all of this?
I think that's up to you. I think that's up to each individual to decide.
Well, that won't work, see, because if we're talking about moving forward, okay, and making progress for humanity, we can't accomplish that unless we're on the same page, unless we've agreed upon what is good and right. And my question, once again, is what is informing, what system of ethics or theistic prescribed law is informing all of this? And unless we can deal with that issue.
Does it matter if we all agree that the government should do its best for all the people? Does it matter where that came from?
What that leads to, okay, is dealing with symptoms, not causes.
Right.
And what we should be committed to is going to the very basics. And so, let me ask you this: do you realize that you're presenting an entirely different worldview from the classical Western Judeo-Christian worldview? You realize you do.
In a sense.
Not in a sense. You're presenting a worldview that is diametrically in opposition to the Judeo-Christian worldview. Yes or no?
I disagree to an extent. I think that there are
not to an extent. I'm asking you to square with us here and to be honest. Is it in opposition to the traditional Judeo-Christian worldview?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The question I started to ask a while ago is how soon are you going to present this again somewhere? Because I missed quite a bit. I didn't get it.
Regina has mentioned doing it at her group.
Great.
So
if you have this on a CD or DVD, that'd be great too. Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to probably PDF it and post it on the website.
A little observation. One of your key precepts seems to be being able to leave the doors unlocked. That's the way it used to be in this country when everybody tried to live by the 10 Commandments, one of which is thou shalt not steal, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. That takes care of that problem.
Right. Yeah, and really, I mean, that was my list. When I visualize what the perfect world looks like, it kind of goes back to my childhood when it was safe to have the doors unlocked, and we had the neighbor kids coming and going like they were my parents' kids, and it was just. And there were probably bad things going on in the world at the time, but that I'm looking at, and you mentioned symptoms. These are the symptoms of the world being right, in my view. What I'm hoping to do is to find out what symptoms of the perfect world other people agree with me on, or what, if the rest of you can come up with some that I go, oh wow, that's a good one. I wish I hadn't thought of that one. So my goal is just to find and collect those symptoms of the world being right, and find agreement around those. See what we can get the most agreement around.
Right here.
Hey, John.
Hey. I'm going to try to form this as a question. I may have to work rather hard at it.
It doesn't matter.
My take would be that we live in a culture of scientism overlaid by a Judeo-Christian belief. And I think that what she is speaking about has science behind it, and a lot of the science may be kind of out there from the mainstream, but then I would put it to the question is, what IQ level are we tamping everything down to speak about the Judeo-Christian tradition of our country? I've been in church situations where they have prosperity thinking and so forth, and I mean, if that is not out there as far as programming for prosperity, praying for this, praying for that, transformative healings and things going on in people's lives, and that goes on every day in this country. And so the one thing where I think that this may stray a bit, and I'm only going to offer this as a kind of a divisor for people to consider, is the question of individualism versus collectivism. At least there's a little bit of onus when everyone's doing everything together that you're really talking collectivist, which really is not our culture here in this country, where individual effort and individual excellence has prevailed.
Thank you. Those are some really good points, and I appreciate you doing that. And Stuart has a video, a little video that he's used in some of his presentations. It's called The Tiny Dot. And it's actually about the income tax and the monetary system, but it depicts the dots, this mass of dots that is us, the 350 million people in America, versus the tiny dot that's the Congress and the government. It's just microscopic. And the thing is, the collectivism that John's talking about, it can be a bad thing, and it can be used in the wrong way, but we have real power when we are united, and that's what this is all about. I couldn't find unity around firing Congress. I couldn't find unity around Occupy Dallas. I couldn't find unity around some of the other things I tried, but I think we can find unity around this vision of what life should be like when all this broken stuff isn't broken anymore.
When you first started talking about doing this presentation and everything, I was excited because I know that there's a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on when it really comes down to it. And there's been presentations done here where people on the left and the right all say, yeah, I'm for that. And I think that's what your intention was, is not to find a foundation of either Judeo-Christianity or anything else. Just what do we agree on, and how, and then we can work on how we get there.
Right.
And so that's
right.
What I was hearing from you. And athletes visualize, practice. Musicians, to get good at their instrument, they practice, visualize. They visualize playing in Carnegie Hall.
Right.
But they practice before they get there. And I think that's some of, right. if I'm hearing that's what you're talking
And something that we're going to do at the end is, I would like for all of us to start recognizing the positive things. But in this little bit, in the next half hour or so that we've got, I want to hear from you guys what your elements of the perfect world are, in addition to what we've already listed. So go ahead.
You can't talk about a perfect world unless we discuss ethics. That's number one. But,
okay, let's hear what you say.
Any philosophical discipline in the world will take you through theologies, cosmology, anthropology, and most of all, axiology, the study of what is valuable.
Okay.
Until you establish what is valuable, you're going no place but further.
That's what these are. These are the things that I consider valuable, and I want to hear from other people what they consider valuable.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Let me just say this, one more thing.
Hmm?
What you're discussing here is not science. You're discussing technology. Technology is the application of science. Okay?
Okay.
So
that's fair.
The discussion is about technology. It's
okay.
not the application of science, okay? And whether you can apply science to the moral question is highly debatable.
Okay,
It's bad science.
what is the moral objection to these kinds of things?
What is good?
What are the moral objections to these kinds of thoughts?
No, that you've listed some very positive, good things.
Okay.
I don't think that anyone, I couldn't disagree.
Okay.
With almost any of the affirmations.
Okay.
And the things you've identified as things that need fixing. Okay, that's not the problem. The problem is when you're trying to unite and you have two diametrically opposite views of the world, a world picture, you are, it's an exercise in futility.
And that's what John raised earlier, was what if you have people visualizing one thing and its opposite? But that's why I'm trying to go, and when I say the world, I mean our world in this country. I'm focusing on this country. And in many cases, a lot of these are just very personal, very local kinds of things. So it's not really about, I'm trying to find those kinds of things that a lot of people can agree to. Yes, they're very high level. Yes, they're very altruistic. But if we can visualize these symptoms of things being good, things being right, we don't have to worry about whether it's how it got there. The idea is just to bypass the how we got there for now. We're all going to be doing the things we think need to be done to get there. And we might be going in opposite directions. We might be working at opposite purposes to get to the same place here. That's not what this is about. This is about bypassing, rising above all of that, and just putting our intentions out there. And it can't hurt.
Hello, Pat.
You can't bypass,
Sir, can I respond?
Okay, and I want to leave enough time so that we can hear what other people think of the perfect world. Yes, John.
The way I view what you are doing here, Pat, is I see you as encouraging us to exercise a skill. That we're discussing a potential, a human potential, and the exercising of a skill. If we transform the world in some way, well, the other side of that is accepting the consequences. I know most times people try to create a perfect world, they usually create more havoc than they fix. So, but I'm just saying, this is about learning a skill. In difficult times, I think everyone should have the skill of intentioning and manifesting, if you will, in their life. It's very useful.
And I would just like to say one thing about that, John, and that is that, and I agree, a lot of people think they're out there doing the right thing and they make a big mess of it. But that's about taking actions. This is about just visualizing the result. And I think there's less chance for that to go wrong than if we've got two people going at the same thing using opposite. Once one person says we need to get here by waging war, and somebody else says we need to get there by immolating ourselves and laying down in front of the railroad tracks or the construction equipment that's laying the pipeline. Two different opposite purposes, and you can go wrong that way, but I don't think you can go too terribly wrong by just visualizing this level of results. Yes?
This is like when we kind of simply, this is like when we put together, we cut pictures out of a magazine and words and create a vision board for our year. So it's like a collective vision board.
Yes, and we've actually talked about taking the inputs from everybody here tonight, and as we interview other people, and creating vision boards around those things that people visualize, and have this that we carry around with us so people can look at it and go, oh, okay, that's what the world looks like. I like that. I like that. That feels good, Okay, Albert, and after this, can we start, I don't know, I hope you guys all have some contributions to add to this. Meg's got them. Okay. So, yeah, I want to eventually start collecting your thoughts on what you see as the perfect world. Go ahead, Albert.
I think what you're looking for is more fundamental principles of how people treat each other in society. And I think this should be independent of all of our Judeo-Christian and Muslim and Hebrew and, you know, every kind of religion in the world. It should embrace every person as one, as part of humanity. And an example of this in history that is pretty well written over and we don't know about is ancient Egypt, where the goddess Ma'at would give edicts that became national laws, two of which were, always speak the truth to everyone. Now, can anyone here disagree with that? Another was always treat everyone in a kindly manner. Can anyone here disagree with that? Is there a religious difference? No.
Right.
As a result of these kinds of laws, ancient Egypt was extremely prosperous and peaceful and lasted for 5,000 years. Now, that's an example that none of our current belief systems can match.
Right.
We need to get a little more humble and learn that it's the fundamental properties of the universe, of our Creator, which is love, that we need to learn to follow. And do it in a way that we can all agree upon these issues and not have to argue it like, as I've mentioned before, roosters in a cockfight on the little issues that divide us.
All right, thank you. Meg, did you want to say something or? Okay, can we, what I would like to start hearing your ideas of additions to this. Meg, can you keep track of those? I don't know if you guys have written them down or just want to speak about them, but if you've got some other thoughts about what your perfect world looks like. Meg, you want to start?
Are we done with questions then?
No, now this is, we're mixing it all together this time.
I don't think they can get up there if they're going to get it. You get to sit down and they get to get up there.
Okay. Yeah.
She wants to do it from here. Oh, I'm first. I had a little trouble with the intention part, but you did mention action and how you know, like the visualization is you visualize to see your golf shot or your gymnastics trick or something. That's one side. The other side was the action part. You did start saying, well, of course you got to do something, and that's something I want to bring up. Really, are there that many people that really want war? I'm thinking that most of us do agree with a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
And so I don't think that's going to be a problem if we could somehow, I don't know how we're going to get together, but you're saying just think together. I don't know how we're going to do it, but
well, you don't stop.
I don't think there's that many people. I think
action.
there's very few people that want the horrible things.
I agree.
So that was kind of addressing your thing about ethics and stuff, because it's not going to be like half and half. It's like less than 1%.
Okay.
For a lot of this important issues.
Specifically, by the way, I didn't specifically appeal to the Judeo-Christian worldview.
You need the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I did was I said, is there any system of ethics?
You need the microphone, sir.
The nice thing about law is that we've got one. It's called the Constitution. And the government's been getting away from it, and they've been violating it. And that needs to be put to bed. Those that violate it need to be put in jail.
Yep.
They break the law as much as any criminal that robs or steals from people.
Yep. And number 9 on my list, we trust law enforcement officers to protect us and obey the Constitution. And they've got one, I think, over there on the how-to list that has to do that with that as well. But I really would like us to start hearing from people about what your perfect world looks like.
One thing that I don't think is on this list is I think we should have free education for everybody who wants it and who can make the grade.
Okay, Meg, could you keep track of this stuff?
Well, in my perfect world, I think humanity has transcended their limited programmed belief systems that they were born into and open to understanding of self, world, and universe by way of intuition, their heart, and their spirit.
Wow.
My second is that in this perfect world, needs of humans are met. We can now discover, develop, and utilize our individual talents for the betterment of the world and fulfillment of the individual.
I like that.
And the third one, no one can profit from another's life force without their consent.
Ah, good one. Are those written down so that we can pass those to Meg when you're done? Okay.
A little shy, I wasn't expecting to. I've got kind of a general one. A world of self-directed pleasure, not pleasure given to the public for consumption. A dramatic increase in creativity as well as critical thinking for our protection. Should I start over? A world of self-directed pleasure, not pleasure given to the public for consumption. A dramatic increase in creativity as well as critical thinking for protection, for our protection. A public that can think for themselves and not be captives to cultural memes. And that's the problem. People do not think for themselves. They have a tendency to be in collective consciousness.
I like that. Okay.
We, under the guidance of the Supreme Court, corporations were treated as people. I think we should implement what Susan B. Anthony said and make women people too.
I second that.
I like that.
These are simple. Unity through diversity that harms no one. Peace begins with me. Good stewards care for the earth, our environment. I affirm that the highest and best good for all is the result.
I like that. Can't argue with that. And we want all of your, hopefully you've got these written down so you can let us have them.
I just jotted this down because I knew it would be omitted.
Okay.
Humanity must blend with nature, respect nature, learn from nature, and love and respect all life forms. Stop the limitless expansion of concrete and pollution and the extinction of other creatures.
What's the positive of that? That's what you don't want. That's a vacuum. What is the alternative that you do want?
Be far more caring of nature.
Okay.
Blend with nature. It's like right now the United States Navy has announced, we're going to start killing off en masse porpoises and whales because they interfere with our sonar.
Right.
I say sink the damn submarines.
Okay.
Just elaborating on that, one that I wrote down was we put priority on finding ways to live within nature without fundamentally altering that ecosystem.
Right.
Life is a priority, preserving and improving it, making and keeping our planet healthy. Animals are treated with respect and kindness, not treated like property. Ecosystems are worked within instead of changing it to fit our shallow desires.
That's a good one.
The other thing that I had was priority is given to the development and protection of our communities. Teachers, police, firefighters, etc. are those who are held at the highest esteem and highest standards.
You know, that's a good point. I've for a long time thought, teachers and police officers are among the lowest paid professions in our country, and that's just wrong. So, yeah, I agree with that. Other people? John?
Yes, the release of technological advances that they already have that would allow us to be a interplanetary star-faring people who would be going to the stars on a regular basis, and that the technology here on Earth would sustain the carrying capacity of this planet, which I believe to be 38 billion, and doing so in a sustainable fashion with reasonable technology and covering all the bases.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else?
I have one that I think encompasses a lot of the things you wrote down, the ones we filled out. In my ideal world, lies and secrecy aren't promoted. I don't know how that we're going to get there, but our systems right now reward lies. I think maybe reward and punishment. I don't know how to get there. But if we have that, it's especially important for the ones that are lying the most and getting away with it and having the most secrets. They have state secrets, large governments, large corporations, large militaries, the large people that do space exploration and research. They're allowed to have secrets and lies, and that conflicts so much with this ideal of democracy and all that. But really, I guess that's my biggest one. I got a whole bunch of them, but I think that kind of eliminates the need for the other ones become sub ones.
That's possible, yeah.
Since he's right here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've got one I did not write down, but this is
Okay.
good because it keeps on coming up about the government, the government,
Right.
the government. I would, my perfect world, there is no need for government, there's no need for military, no need for police, because they are truly just enforcers for those who are actually running the world and sucking the life force out of humanity.
That's a good point. That's a good point. In the perfect world, we police ourselves. We police, well, I mean, do unto others, or, if it harms none, do what you will.
Okay, in the perfect world, we would have democracy.
Okay. Not a republic?
Democracy.
Okay.
An economic democracy, actually.
Okay.
I believe in a perfect world, if every person could be enlightened with and illuminated with and filled with and become a radiator of and a manifester of the infinite unconditional love of our Creator, then we would automatically keep the first two commandments, which is to love God properly, love neighbor properly as we love our own self properly. Then all the other 8 commandments of the original 10 that Moses gave to the ancient Hebrews would fall into place, and everybody could leave their doors unlocked. There would be no crime, no wars, no famine, no poverty, no disease, and there would be exceeding great peace and joy.
That's possible. That's right.
In a perfect world here in America, that we will not have to choose in the next election between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. But my list is up here. So, fully enforce the Constitution, and number 1 is get rid of the Federal Reserve. I think that would enormously wipe out 90% of the problems in the United States and worldwide. But the other thing was the prison population they take black kids in South Dallas that smoke some pot and throw them in jail for 20 years or whatever. And 62% of the population in prisons are black Americans. Well, I grew up in Highland Park, and we smoked pot over there too. So how about common law? If there is no crime, if there's no one harmed, there is no crime.
Right. Yes.
No armed tax collectors.
Right.
Well, during the week you had requested that we put together some thoughts about where we want to be and a little bit about how to get there, and I did that, spent most of the afternoon doing that, and I thought it would come at rebuttal time, but it would take a little over 5 minutes. But basically we need to learn who and what we are, because the mass of humanity, all of us mostly, do not know that. We are truly spiritual beings and made in the image and likeness of one infinite creator. We have tremendous ability through our consciousness to change anything that's wrong in this world. And we need to learn how and why we can do this by learning who and what we are. That's sort of a synopsis of what I would have read for about 7 or 8 minutes.
I just want to say that I really affirm that list. notwithstanding anything a difference I may have.
And did you
That
feel,
is-
did
that
you
is
do the
really
checklist
That's a
thing?
solid, huh?
Did you do the checklist thing
Yeah.
for us? Okay,
Yeah. Oh,
good.
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I second that. I reaffirm that list. I was going to ask who wrote that list, and now Stuart admits that he wrote it.
Well, it was a combination of, he started it, and then
people added to it.
And I added a little bit to it as well.
So my point is that it seems like a pretty ethical list to answer
Well,
this gentleman.
this is what the perfect world looks like when it's done. That's a list of proposed ways to get there.
Right.
So we're just looking to find out where do we have agreement on.
And, as a Christian, my perfect world would be that we would all honor our Creator, and then we would love each other and as God has loved us. But, our forefathers decided that they were not going to force religion on people. We would have a freedom of religion, but they were moral people. And the Constitution is a moral and ethical document. And if everybody followed that, then we could leave our doors open and feel safe and wouldn't have to worry about a huge government infringing on our rights and liberties.
Yeah.
Well, if John speaks 3 times, I have to, right? There was one thing in that little thing that I prepared today. I really got inspired because I watched the video, which I have the link to here if anyone wants it. Greg Braden gave a little presentation on a lady who was diagnosed under traditional medicine with about a 3-inch diameter cancerous tumor in her bladder. And they told her, well, we can't do anything for you. So she went to Japan to a hospital that has no medicine. And this is on video, you can watch it. She sat there in the hospital bed with no drugs at all, alert, watching the television screen or the computer screen that was showing the image of a sonogram of her tumor. And then 3 trained experts came in and as they describe it, in their heart, and incidentally, the heart has about 40% identical cell structure to the brain. So think from the heart, folks. In any event, in their heart, they saw her in a state of perfection. And they were sort of chanting together something that sounded like wasa, wasa, which means already done or already perfect. And it took a total of less than 3 minutes that you could watch that tumor diminish on the screen, and she was completely healed.
Wow.
Totally mentally by these people.
Wow.
And there are other forms of practice around the world where healing is being done because, again, we have been given a toolkit that is immense. And like you use the term matrix, I use the term matrix in the things that I was talking about. We live in the matrix. We are brought up in the matrix. We believe a lot of lies that even were taught in churches. And that's where it gets divisive, unfortunately. But we are very spiritual beings in an illusion that we're material beings. And we can change that because the ideas that we have are what we project into our future and into our circumstances, including our bodies. And if we change those ideas to the image of perfection that the Creator made us in His image and maintains us, then those ideas cannot stay anymore because there's nothing to support them. And that's what these guys proved in their way in Japan. That video was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's interesting. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Okay, so.
I got it.
Okay.
I guess we're running out of people.
Well, but I've got another exercise for everybody, so go ahead. Did you have something?
I have something too, but
Go ahead.
He's got one right here.
Well, I hope this is humorous. I just learned something new tonight about wasa. I learned something in Vegas some years back when I mistook some green stuff for guacamole, and I learned the true meaning of wasabi. Believe me, I was done.
I guess
Okay,
I'm the
so
last one standing.
What's your perfect world look like,
Well,
Tom?
I look at what's happened since the Industrial Revolution. Machines replace people. Machines don't pay taxes. People pay taxes. And today in this society, in this country, we have 25 million people out of work, believe it or not. And we're in big trouble. We got everybody fighting amongst each other. We're creating wars, everything else. And the real solution is to shorten the workday. I know that. I negotiated that years ago. But anyway, we went to a 6-hour day instead of an 8-hour day. We could put the nation back to work. We'd have more people working, paying taxes. We'd have less people now working, draining taxes. The government get a twofold benefit of increased tax revenue without raising taxes. Plus, they have less bills to pay for people who are working because they'd be working. We could put our economy back on its proper course. But before that can happen, we have to get. If we try to do that, if we try to shorten the workday in this country, the corporations all leave town and go overseas. They leave in an instant. So that's not going to work. So then we have to put, then the next thing, we got to get the jobs here. So we got to put tariffs on. We can't put tariffs on the countries anymore because we created the WTO. We created all these other peripheral things, and we can't do it because of what's happened. So we have to. One of the things we could do is perhaps put tariffs on corporations, and that way Apple produces everything in China. They don't produce anything here. You got all the jobs over there. So you say, well, you pay the difference in labor costs, the difference in environmental protections. If you don't like it, you can produce it here. So they produce jobs here. You'd have jobs here. And once you had jobs here, then you could shorten the workday. But you can't do that either because we get the best Congress money can buy. And that's one of our biggest problems. They're owned and operated by the corporations. And under the definition of fascism, that's what we have. We have a real problem there, and it has to change. So how do you change it? Whatever has to happen, Congress has to do it. And to get Congress to do something, that's a real problem. But if you really think about it, since about the year 2000, no money has ever gone to any challengers, period. They don't get 10 cents. So challengers don't win elections. I've tried it, it didn't work. And anyway, as a result, in order to change, we need to get free airtime. We get Congress. What will they vote for? Adlai Stevenson was senator from Illinois. He lasted one term and he quit. And he said, well, why are you quitting? Well, why didn't you run again? He said, well, he had to spend 70% of his time raising money. He wasn't going to do it because that's all he could do is just raise money. He wasn't accomplishing anything. So he wouldn't do it, therefore he couldn't run again. So he didn't run again. So Congress, most of our congressmen spend at least 70% of their time raising money. That's all they do. And they don't have time to learn anything, to do anything, except they get told what to do. And they don't have time to think, they don't have time to study. That's part of the problem we have. That's why we got to change that. What will they vote for? They'll vote to keep their money plus get free airtime because they have no sense of being beat by a challenger. And once they do that, if we get Congress to act in its own self-interest to instruct the Federal Communications Commission to require the media to provide sufficient free airtime, then you change everything. They would end up representing the people instead of representing the people buying their vote in Washington. Then you could change things. Then you could put tariffs on corporations. Then you could shorten the workday in this country. Then you could balance your budget. Then you could have a better world. That's how I see it. Anyway, thank you. Okay. Who's next?
I appreciate what you're saying, and I have a background in running political campaigns, but I've completely gotten rid of television. I have extracted myself from the process. I think voting for president is a waste of time because they're put in place by kingmakers, and we are spending our time, spinning our wheels, raging against the machine, and the machine does not care. Monsanto doesn't give a crap what you think about genetically modified foods or how many countries raise their arm against it. There is an organized movement for biodiversity and for sustainable agriculture, and that is what is beating Monsanto. Not signs, not rage, and certainly not the political process. So it's movements like the sustainable agricultural community that is the key to success in changing these very ideas, because to continue to prance about in this social scene they've set up for us to vent our humor and our comedy about it and The nonprofit sector's had 7% of the gross national product since the 70s. They're not getting anything done. So the only way is to go around the process, over the process, completely ignore that process. Why would we put tariffs on corporations that treat us this way in the first place? Let them go. Let them go to China. Let them go have their resource war for the last of the rare earth minerals over there in Syria. But here in the United States, we should be growing hemp. We should be making products from sustainable agriculture. We should be using bioremediation to clean up our soil and the study of microbes and taking the great sciences that are around and putting them to work in our country in new business. So it's the ignore campaign. You don't like them, don't buy their products. Go do something different. And everybody should have a bumper sticker on their car that says, grow your own, make your own, get together and do your own. Because unless we have an organized, unified community of people with ideal likes and understandings, we're going to continue to argue religion and politics and people who don't give a crap about you or your family or whether we all survive or not. Because they're up there on the moon or wherever with their stargates and their craziness. You know, it doesn't even matter. The list goes on. And I encourage you to look at William Henry because he does a great job of talking about the self. It doesn't matter what the Illuminati are doing. You can't focus if a UFO landed on the White House lawn tomorrow. It's not in my yard. What am I doing in my life right now that I can control, that are things that I can change, that within my community, what are those like-minded ideals that we strive for? So you put women in a room and they don't talk about defining themselves by what they do for a living. We have to address patriarchy in the culture. They will talk about their children, their interests, their art, the things that they love about their families. We need to incorporate an idea of like-mindedness that breaches the isms that have pretty much infiltrated the entire socioeconomic structure of the matrix. And that's all I have to say on that.
I've listened to what everyone has said this evening, and one of the problems we have, that I have, and I'm not going to put everybody in the same boat that I'm in, is we have to look at where we are right now. And we have to decide where we want to go and how we're going to get there. Most of us, one of the things we have to do is, someone has said this earlier, we need to know who we are and what our vision is, and recognize we're going to make any change, we're going to do it collectively, because if we live in Dallas, Texas, I don't have enough ground in my backyard to grow enough to eat. So it's a different situation when it was the Depression. So we got to understand that a large number of people are satisfied. They're getting what they think they want. And we have a larger number who are dissatisfied. And one of the biggest problems, I think, is that we all are, we let the media and ideology define us. And we don't define who we are. In many cases, that don't mean anything. So we need to recognize that we're all in this nation together. And what hurts one group eventually would hurt us all. So I wanted to say one thing is we need a government that represents everybody, not just the people who can pay for it.
Right.
We need to see beyond what I call peripheral issues. And they use peripheral issues. Religion is a peripheral issue. Abortion is a peripheral issue. Racism is a peripheral issue. We need to get beyond that as a people. And if we do that, I think we can see what's in all of our best interests. I don't need to be concerned about what's best for me, but what's best for everybody. And if we do something that's best for everybody, good for everybody, I'm certain that I can make it. But with the nation being what it is right now, I'm not that certain, because there are many obstacles. Now, for me personally, I've reached a point in my life that I probably can roll on through for the next few years. But we need to think about our children, our grandchildren, and what kind of world they're going to inherit.
Yes.
And we need to make it so that we learn to love and respect each other.
Yes.
If we learn to truly love and respect each other, we'll be on our way. Thank you.
And after Albert, I would like to, it's 8:30.
Okay, this is very short. Just one slight rebuttal to what Tom had to say. If we do go to a 6-hour work day, and we do suddenly stimulate all of this prosperity in the country as you envision, then there will be a huge increase in the demand for goods, and we'll have to go back to an 8-hour work day to get it all done.
Okay.
You get the last word.
Well, it's 8:30. I would like to spend the next 15 minutes going around the room and bring this back to a positive note and thinking about the good things. And I would like everybody to think about the things that you're concerned about, recognize and celebrate and share with us the achievements that you're aware of, things that are going right. I would like the last 15 minutes to be about what's right in the world. What are the pieces of the right thing that are in your world that you want to give thanks for, and to send out to the universe, to tell the universe we want more stuff like this. And I'm going to sit down. I'm done.
You have to tell me, Pat, what are we doing now?
Where everybody's going to, we'll pass the mic and everybody's going to tell us something they're thankful for, something that's working.
Well, Larry, come on up here. We got something to...
I'll go first. There you go. Okay, why are you leaving? I'm kidding. I want to give thanks for the activists that have spoken out and done something about fluoride, genetically modified food, trying to speak out to make a difference and change the world concerning 9/11, and that the official story is not true, and all the activists that are out there trying to change the prison system and the judicial system. So I'm thankful for those people that are out there passionately trying to help people, and animal rescues and the rest of it. So.
Nobody's thankful for anything. Come on, there gotta be something.
Well, I'm grateful for two things I know about that go on in Europe. I had a guy who came to my office when I, years ago, had a manufacturing company. And he told me that his father had just retired in Switzerland from the same company he had worked in his whole working life. And that the combination of his retirement benefits plus the equivalent of Social Security from his government meant that he retired for the rest of his life at the highest rate of pay of his entire life. And that's the way they design it in Switzerland. I'm grateful for that, and I think it's a great example. Also in Norway, they have a committee that is set up by law that any legislation that goes through their legislation, their legislative houses, must first go to this committee. And they have to analyze it to see the effect that this new law, proposed law, would have on family life in Norway. And if it's a negative, it does not get passed. And I'm very grateful for that. I think these two things are showing a very advanced way of thinking in the political scene.
I am thankful for the Fully Informed Jury Association and the work they do to educate the public into the right of jury nullification. That in fact the judges and the prosecutors are lying to you. You can go in and you can decide on the law and the facts, both. And they've been doing good work, and I hope that continues To the point, I look forward to a time when we regain control of our judicial system.
Something I want to recognize and celebrate is that there are a couple of activist groups that are members are in this room. There's the 9/11 Truth Group and the fluoride folks, and both groups have made tremendous efforts toward enlightening people and overcoming prejudices, and Suzanne's also got work that she's doing with the trade agreements that are being done. So all of this awareness of making people aware of the things that are being done behind the scenes, at least making people think, whether you believe in a thing or not. I'm thankful for the awareness and the encouragement that they're doing to make people think.
I'm thankful with the tyrannical government that we have, that we're still free enough to meet tonight.
I'm just going to second that because I was standing in line over here and saying, you know, isn't it wonderful that we have such a diverse group with a lot of we have different religious backgrounds, different preferences, different political affiliations, whatever. But we have the freedom to come together here and speak out loud. And, you know, Doc is recording us, so that's going to be posted on the internet somewhere. Those who are shy, too bad. Sorry, you've already spoken. So what I just encourage everybody to do is put your focus back on what is possible and what you'd like to see. And when you catch yourself in the negative, like this is what's wrong, and identifying the problem, flip it. What is the divine alternative? What is the highest and best opposite of whatever that negativity is or whatever that problem is? Chances are that duality, the world that we live in of duality, is going to inform you what the opposite is of that negative approach or that concern that you have. So thank you.
The NSA, the only government agency that listens. I am thankful that my emails, my opinions expressed in emails, count for 13,000 people in the statistical analyses. So anytime I express my opinion in an email or in a blog, that actually gets counted as if 12,999 people were going to express that opinion and just simply didn't quite make it to expressing it. Hey, it already has, sorry.
Well, I want to express gratitude for people like Suzanne Carpenter and the John Birch Society and a few others who have come here to this meeting where it's typically very controversial and have brought out issues that transcend all of the little petty issues that keep us divided, that have shown us that there are issues that we all really must agree upon and take action upon, and find things where we can agree and go forward on things rather than just fight each other, like in the example I've used as roosters in a cockfight. Because that's where they have us in the matrix. They have us believing that we're all divided up into religions, into countries, into languages, into belief systems, into this and that and the other, and on and on and on, left, right, liberal, conservative, and so forth. And we miss the big issues that are going on when all of this is the smokescreen for it. And I just want to again express thank you for coming the time that you came, Suzanne. That was a very pivotal moment, I thought, in this group. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm grateful for the fact that as of yesterday, both my husband and I are employed for the first time in over a year.
Anybody else?
That's it, I think. Oh, I got one. Well, in my life, I've got several things to be thankful for. I had wonderful parents.
I was a beneficiary of the welfare state in England. That is socialism. It did work. It worked for me, and it worked for many people. Here, it's given a very bad name, but it worked for me. I'm also thankful for people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I think they're wonderful, and we need more of them.
A little parting thought. I always hear the people say these days, well, just, send it out to the universe, put it out to the universe, and then the universe will send back to you all the good things you want to manifest through the power of your positive thought and verbalization and visualization and conceptualization and the power of your will. But I don't hear anybody talking about the God of the universe, the God who created the universe, the God who created quantum particles and the laws of quantum physics. I don't hear anything about that, and I'm grateful that there is a God who is the creator of the universe, the creator of quantum particles, and the creator of all the laws of confation, profation, verbalization, visualization, conceptualization, and manifestation, who has the sovereign power to overrule all and work out his sovereign will for the planet Earth through his infinite love and light and concern for mankind, humankind that he created in the first place.
I am grateful that we are here precisely because we are in the Creator's image, and this property of creative thought, which we are discussing, comes from Him. This is why, really, we must be careful what we create.
I really affirm this theistic views that are expressed because one of the primary writers of the New Testament stated something like this: mankind is becoming darkened because they worship the creation and not the Creator. And that's a pretty broad line in the sand. And if you believe in this kind of a God, and you believe He actually created everything and is in ultimate control, imagine being on the wrong side of how He feels. And that's the risk we run if we put too much emphasis on manipulating the creation to get what we want, and not praying to the God who created everything.
That's right. You cannot petition the Lord with prayer. That's what Jim Morrison said. I want to thank you for letting me be myself again. I'm not as smart as all you, so I'm not going to do much politics. I am so thankful for still being alive, and my aches and pains, they come and go. They go sometimes. They don't just keep coming bigger. I'm thankful for the fact that I keep learning stuff and find out how stupid I was yesterday. And I'm thankful that the internet's still here for a while.
Running out of time. Well, we're running out of time, so I just thought I'd let you. Oh, we got one guy here who wants to say something.
Well, Pat, I thought we were going to do something on this. Is we have an issue we might all be able to come to consensus on, maybe. And that's the issue of the addition of fluoride to the Dallas City water, which is coming up for a vote, I believe, on the 28th. If we wish to exercise the skill that we're studying here, maybe as a group you could lead us in a visualization of your design?
Well, I mean, that's, I don't know how many agree with that, but I know that there are several people in this room who do, and I think anybody who's seen the science and the data probably agrees. But I personally, and I think those of us who are in favor of this, visualize the water, the thing on my list, our air and water are pure and healthy, and that's the alternative to what they're doing now. They're wanting to put something into our water that is a drug that no doctor can legally prescribe, and they're giving it to all people, and you have to pay to put it in, and you have to pay to put it out, take it out if you don't want it. So I would say we should visualize that our water is pure. And I'm visualizing that the Dallas City Council has made this decision to stop putting the money into fluoride, and that that money can be used for something else, but that the city council members are receiving pats on the back, and that they are feeling like, wow, I really did a good thing. And even those who might not have been persuaded really strongly initially, or who voted no and were overwhelmed by the ones who voted yes, I would like to see them seeing the pats on the back that they get and the knowledge that they learn after the fact, when they see the overwhelming acceptance of this process. Did I get it?
There was a big group of dentists that were trying to get the fluoride back in the water. We need to boycott this. It doesn't work anyway.
Anyway, I want to thank our speaker for being here tonight. I think she did a terrific job. Brought us to some consensus and how to think, what to do in our future as we can see it. We're going to retire from here. They want us out here by 9 o'clock as they close, and we got to let them go home. And so we'll carry on. We usually carry on down at Starbucks, down in the corner. We invite our speaker down there and give her some, whatever she wants for coffee or whatever. And you're all welcome to come down there. And that's it for tonight. So.
This is William, your videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like us, or follow us, and get notices of all our videos. We love it even when you call. So when visiting the Barbeck's restaurant, tell them you want your reservation to the next College of Complex class.